Welcome, wonderful listener. I'm your host, Carrie B. Van Winkle, and you are listening to the Smart and Soulful Money Podcast. I'm a socially responsive investment advisor and certified financial transitionist. This season, I'm naming and exploring important dimensions of what we inherit in our money lives, financial or otherwise, and how we move forward from there. More specifically, I'll be talking about how I work with women and other traditionally marginalized people who are inheritors, helping them move through the experience of inheritance in a way that can positively change how they engage in their money life, achieve their money goals, invest in the way that is aligned with their values, and transform the legacy they want to leave for their loved ones and in the bigger world. Whether you are an inheritor, anticipate this experience in your future or not, we all inherit when it comes to our money lives, whether that is a financial inheritance, inheriting systems, culture, stories, or mindset. While an inheritance is often generations in the making, many of the dimensions of this experience for women and other traditionally marginalized people have yet to be named and understood. Let's begin to do that here. So what's next? Getting more clear on what you want to move away from and also what you want to move toward. Exploring that and then naming it is what we're going to focus on during this episode. So the context for this next step is that if you've listened to the earlier episodes of this season, you've gone through a process of knowing you want something different and starting to understand and look at your relationships and how those are informing both what you want to be different and also what you want to build on and deepen. You believe that there is something better, there's a better way to be engaged in your money life so that you feel more aligned in your money life and you're ready to explore what's possible. So in this step, I'm going to ask you to clarify 3 experiences or situations or behaviors that you want to move away from and 3 that you want to move toward. I like to narrow it down, just focus it to 3 because I think a process like this can feel overwhelming and maybe a bit of paralysis analysis, and you might not get anywhere with it if you do feel overwhelmed. So I intentionally made this process as simple as possible so that you could complete it, that it felt very doable, and you didn't get stopped in that obstacle of overwhelm. So when you clarify these 3 experiences, situations, and behaviors on both sides, what you want to move away from and the 3 you want to move toward, you can do this with words, journaling, reflecting, or if you're more visual and you want to draw or have some other type of visual representation to go through this process, go for it. However you like to get into this kind of work and explore and get that clarity for yourself. Moving away from something is likely to be more clear. You've experienced it, you can see it, you have felt it, and you probably have words for it by now. You can start to name it. So what you're moving toward might be more of a process to get clear and realize, be able to name what that is. So here's the process. Reflect on each prompt question, which I'll give you. Spend 5 to 10 minutes journaling on each of these questions. And then in this list you're going to create, or these ideas you're going to create, choose the 3 that feel most important. They are resonating the most with you right now, and then write them into the tool that I've created for you that you've downloaded. Okay, so the first prompt question, I am feeling ready to move away from. Again, this is simple, very intentionally simple. I am feeling ready to move away from. So think back to listening to those earlier episodes in the season. What has come up for you as far as negative experiences you are having, have had in your money life, challenges that you've experienced? What are the situations that have been stressful, obstacles you've encountered, maybe even people that you interact with as it relates to your money life? Any of these that are not working for you, that feel limiting, that are causing stress and strain, that feel disempowering, any of these that are not aligned with what matters to you and who you are, what your values are. So some examples here might be feeling not valued. Let's say you are around the table with loved ones in a financial professional's office. How valued do you feel in that space? Do you feel like your contributions are valued, your voice is valued? That might be a context that brings up some ideas of what you want to move away from. Do you feel not listened to? This might even be simply, not making eye contact with you during a meeting or a conversation, or you speaking and being talked over, or just ignored or not listened to, that your words aren't given the weight that's given to other people in the room. You might feel talked down to or shut out of important financial communications or conversations. When you are a part of conversations, when I know what someone is saying is not aligned with what matters to me, what my values are. So you might have that experience where no, this does not feel like it's in alignment with what matters to me. I know it's possible to do better than this. You might experience other obstacles to communication. You might silence yourself. Definitely had this experience over the years. You might judge yourself and therefore end up silencing yourself, not asking those questions, not saying what you really need to be saying in a space. So there are different obstacles that can come up for us in communication. Another important example of this is you might be feeling alone as you navigate this process and experience of inheritance. It can be isolating for some of the ways we've already talked about here. You also may notice you're feeling other emotions pretty regularly during money conversations or money meetings. You might feel anger, frustration, even shame. These are really common when things are not in alignment with what matters to you, with who you are, and some of these other experiences are happening. Okay, now that you have some examples, you can pause here, give yourself 5 to 10 minutes, and then hit play to come back for the next question. Okay, now that you've looked at what you want to move away from and you've named that, the next step is to explore what you want to move toward. This is a different energy. Moving away from things is a different energy than moving toward things. I can feel that. I can feel the different energy in my body of that. I want to describe it as moving away from things that are more negative in experience, out of alignment, and moving towards things that are more inspiring, in alignment, feel meaningful, have the impact I want to have. So to shift your energy, I encourage you to get up and do something that refreshes your energy. So if it's take a short walk, if it's go out into the yard and check on what's blooming or what little buzzy things are out there on the plants, or even getting up and shaking off your energy, do some movement, nothing too intense at all, actually, just some really enjoyable movement to refresh your body, and that'll help kind of refresh your mind as you do this next step. All right, so with this step, your prompt question is, I am inspired to move toward. What is it that you envision for yourself? So not in the biggest sense, because we don't need to do that right now. If you have identified what you want to move away from, what's the shift in what you want to move toward that's connected to that? And again, this is a big question, but I actually want you to get really specific and connect it to what you're moving away from. And maybe some of these questions, I have a big list here. So some of these questions might not be the right question for you right now. So just try to identify a couple of questions here that feel like the best fit and use those. I am inspired to move toward. Why is this important to you? What you're moving toward, why is it important to you? How do you want to feel? That might help you identify what you want to move toward. How you don't want to feel, you've already identified. How do you want to feel? What do you want to do or be able to do? What do you hope for? What kind of influence do you want to have? What impact do you want to create? What is the legacy you want to live into and leave to loved ones and future generations? So these are listed on the tool that you download. Just again, find one or two that really fit, choose those, focus on those with this reflection piece. Take 5 to 10 minutes, spend some time in reflection with this, and then come back. So now it's time to pause. Okay, now that you have some great ideas, hopefully feeling a bit inspired, you found some wording there, ways to name what you want to move toward. Narrow it down, focus it. Choose 3 that are most resonant, most important, most timely that you want to move away from, and then write those in the table. Just 3 to start. And then 3 that are most resonant, most timely, most important that you want to move toward, and write those in the table. One of the things here is this isn't a fixed thing. This is just a next step. Don't put pressure on yourself to do this perfectly, that you can't change your mind. This is really just to get in there, kind of stir the pot up of ideas, of your heart, of your spirit, of what matters to you, and be able to really start to name these pieces more and then prioritize and focus. When I created this tool, I went through this process. And I focused it as I want you to focus it with this lens of in my financial life, how I'm engaging, how I'm in relationship with money in my financial life, all the things that involves. And in the spirit of transparency, I think sharing personally can be really powerful because a lot of times we don't see behind the curtain of other people's money life. And someone I've learned a lot from, Bari Tessler, who wrote The Art of Money and has the Art of Money program. She's really such a great example and model for the power of transparently sharing our money stories as she shares hers. We'll put a link in the show notes so you can find her and experience that for yourself. So, inspired by Bari, I'm going to share with you what I came up with when I went through this process for myself. Something that I've identified I want and need to move away from that's been on my mind recently has been feeling the stress of worrying that we're wasting our money on the wrong things. We're, meaning my husband and I. And just questioning that. We're not super disconnected from our money. And also, everybody has their money challenges. And I do worry sometimes, are we being intentional enough? Are we wasting money? Am I going to look back in 2 years or 5 years and think, what did we do with our money? And have regrets there and feel regretful. So I want and need to move toward. And there were 2 things that came out of this moving away from item for me. I want to feel confident that we know what matters most to us and our money is being focused on these areas. You'd think that I would be doing this already. This is what I help people with every day in my work. And also, I could use some help staying focused, refreshing as our financial situation changes. This was a really good thing for me to get clarity on and write it down. Like, oh yeah, this is something that I've felt some stress about. So I want and need to move toward having a process that provides the information we need to have to intentionally direct our money towards what is most important to us. That process. And then, of course, another question I could ask myself is there a person or some kind of support that we need in order to be able to make this happen? That felt really good to me. Like, oh, this is, again, I think it's the power of simplicity. We go through this bigger reflection process, and then we really focus and narrow it down to something that feels possible and doable and meaningful. I hope this is a helpful process to you. Be sure to take this tool, what you've written down, put that somewhere that you are going to continue to see it. Share it with someone who you trust, who you can have a conversation with about this, maybe in a way you haven't had a conversation with anyone yet about what you've written here. That really brings power to this next step. And then you can also use this tool. You can come back to this tool. So it's, again, the power of simplicity here. This can help you in many different situations and many different experiences of life as you navigate your money path, your relationship with money. So come back to this tool and this process as it might be helpful to you.
Thank you for listening to the Smart and Soulful Money podcast. If you have found the podcast helpful, please be sure to leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast player. It really makes a difference. To ensure you get the next episode when it goes live, please hit subscribe or follow. In the episode notes, you can find direct links to follow me on Instagram, sign up to learn about new episodes, and to find out more about my work as a socially responsive investment advisor. Until next time, remember it is possible to have an approach to your money life that is both smart and soulful.